things have been just getting worse for me the last basically 6 years. Things have just been getting progressively worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Well, actually, make it 5.5 years. Things are just getting progressively worse for me. So ever since I left the Boston Nagashi school, things have just been getting worse for me. So for the time frame from late August of 2012 until May of 2013, I lived with my mom, stepfather, and my two sisters. When I lived there, I was literally worked like crazy. I was forced to clean up the entire house, because I didn't go to work or school at the time. And my stepfather was like, well, since you live here, you're going to have to do all the chores. I was forced to I was asked, well, not forced, but I was told to vacuum every floor in all the rooms, like do the whole house, like every day. Every day I was there, I was asked, you have to vacuum the entire house from the basement through the second floor and do all the rooms, the bathrooms, everywhere. Then you have to sweep the floors, if there's any leftover stuff, and then you have to mop them. Oh, and then I was told to wash the dishes, that everybody, for breakfast, to wipe down the windows, do every possible indoor chore, And I did it. And my stepfather would come home and berated me over every little thing. If there was a tiny thing off, he berated me over it. And yet he never treated any of my siblings that way, Or, granted they were a little younger than me, but I was treated the worst. Why? Not because I'm older, because I'm the one who had the disability. So I was treated like a second-class member of the house. I was treated lower than anybody else. And I noticed that, and I basically wouldn't take it anymore. I started talking back, things I never used to do. I would talk back to my stepfather. I started talking behind his back. I became pretty disrespectful to my siblings because of how they were treating me. I finally began to realize that they were more privileged than me and that they didn't deserve it. So I began, if they started mistreating me, I mistreated them 10 times worse. I became very disrespectful to my sisters in the house. And unfortunately, that caused my stepfather to treat me worse because that's how I treated my younger sisters. I mean, I didn't beat them or anything, but I very easily lost my temper with them. Like, I never beat them or anything, never got to that point, but I did. I lost my temper. So yes, I lost my temper with my sisters numerous times. I just was so tired of how I was being treated. I just couldn't take it anymore. I just couldn't. So there's an accident ahead of us that's blocking the road. Yeah, see, there's an accident right there. Yeah, let me go. Anyway, so I would do all the chores in the house, and what made me angry is that after I was done everything, if there was something a tiny, if I felt like I'm tired, I don't want to do one thing because I did everything else. So every member of the family was entitled to do different chores. I had to do everything, and when I was like, come on, I did everything. Can I just take a 10-minute break? My stepfather would be like, you're so lazy, you're so ungrateful. I'm like, and I blew up, and I'm like, I'm lazy? Look at all of you. You're making me do all the work, and I have the disability. You're calling me lazy? I'm like, fuck you. I'm lazy. Of course, I didn't say fuck you, but I didn't curse, but I implied it. I'm like, screw you. You're calling me lazy and I'm doing all the work? And I'm like, if anyone's ungrateful, it's you. So yeah, I definitely got a lot of anger, especially when I talk back. One thing my stepfather hated more than anything was when I talk back. And I did a lot of that. Because I was called lazy, yet I did all the chores in the house. Imagine you're doing all the work and nobody's doing anything, and then they're calling you lazy. They're basically They're the ones who are being lazy, and they're projecting it onto you. They're projecting their failures onto me. They were projecting their failures onto me, and that pissed me the hell off. And if that wasn't enough, how was I rewarded for my hard work and dedication to satisfy, my ungrateful and selfish family? What did I get in return? I was sent to live in a group home. My mom wanted at first. She promised me that I would live, that I would be away from all of this, and I would live free and happy. And I would not have 24-hour supervision. That's what my mom promised me initially. But me being the pessimist, I didn't believe this. Yeah. I didn't believe this. So I told my mom, I know you're going to change your mind. You're probably going to make me live in a 24-hour group home because I'm so fucking unlucky. I actually said that to my mom. I said that exact statement. My mom was like, oh, Arthur, don't say those kind of things. Don't curse and don't be so negative. But of course, I continued to be negative, and I continued to rant and rave that I'll be put into a 24-hour group home, which my mom promised me would not be the case. But finally we had a meeting with a new agency. The agency was not in a good neighborhood, so we chose another one closer to my neighborhood in Rego Park, where I live now. And guess what? The staff, the agency, wanted to provide an independent residential apartment where it would only have partial supervision, like during certain hours of the time. My mom was like, no, I want my son to have nighttime supervision. However, the agency said the only way we can provide nighttime supervision is if he has 24-hour supervision. So my mom was like, okay, let's do it. And I reminded my mom of the promise she made. She said, oh, it will only be like a year or less, and then you will have no supervision once again, or have limited supervision. She said it'll be a year or less. And I said, no, I swear to God, it'll be 4 years or more, maybe even 5 or 6 years. My mom told me not to be so negative, but you know what? I took her word for it, and I was an idiot for doing so. I was in that agency for 5 years now. 5 years later, I still have 24-hour supervision. So, ha, 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 in her face. And because I live in a 24-hour group home, things got even worse for me. So for the short time that I was there, up to about June of 2013, I had a lot of rights. I watched a lot of TV, I relaxed, I did my homework there, and I went to bed kind of late, later than I usually used to. So it's not 4 or 5 a.m., that's ridiculous, but like 12 a.m., 1 a.m., some nights we're up to 2 a.m., which is kind of late, I know. When my mom found out, she was infuriated. She made a deal. She forced me to make a deal that I would go to bed earlier. But when I started school, I started going to bed earlier. And I would go to my grandparents' house to use Camtasia Studios to make my YouTube videos. However, in the apartment, I wasn't allowed to do that, as the agency computer, was the agency's, not mine. So I couldn't do any downloads. Even if it was school related, they would tell me, go to the school or go to the library to do your homework if you have to do a download. So in some cases, I wasn't able to do certain assignments because I couldn't get access to the software that I needed. And I got pretty bad grades on some of them, which really hurt. Anyway, after, a few months, for August of 2013, my stepfather bought me an Xbox 360 for my 22nd birthday. However, when my mom found out, because I argued with her and I talked back, she took away the Xbox and said that because of my rebellious attitude as a punishment for rebelling against her authority, even though I don't live with her, she said you can no longer play the Xbox anymore as a punishment for rebelling against her, for going against her word. Basically, her word was that I couldn't play the video games at all. And I'm like, well, I'm 22 now. You have no right to control me like this. Bug out of my life. And as a punishment for that, my video game privileges were completely stripped from me for several months as a punishment. And when they were once again reinstated, I was only limited to playing video games once per week. And 4 years later, this rule still applies. I'm only allowed to play video games once a week, and that's it. All this is because I flexed my rights and stood up for myself. Yep, I guess standing up for your rights causes you to be treated as if you were a second-class citizen because you flexed your rights. So what? I should have submitted to my mother's whim? Hell no! I'm not gonna fall. I'm not gonna make myself helpless. In fact, I'm gonna continue to rebel and I'm gonna continue to fight for my rights until the day I die if I have to. But however, I feel like this is a losing battle. But you know what? I have the heart of a warrior, so until the cows come home, I will continue fighting for my rights, even if it's a losing battle. Even if I know I'm going to lose, I'm still going to fight. You know. But because I don't have access to creative video content where I can make very creative videos, I unfortunately, in 7 years of having YouTube, I only amassed 230 subscribers, and I haven't amassed enough views. So as a result, YouTube has stripped me of all my YouTube partnership tools, so I can no longer monetize any of my videos, which unfortunately means my only source of income beside my 1 day a week, 4 hour a week job is gone. So I'm now slipping further into poverty, further than I have ever been. All because of standing up for my rights 5 years ago. Well, hopefully things will get better for me, but I'm about to transfer to another college and my mom is preventing me. And now my mom is basically causing things to happen that will lead me to be dependent on others for the rest of my life. All because I'm standing up for my rights against ableism. I know that sucks, but that's the way things go. That's the way the cookie crumbles. Thank you for watching and have a great day. Bye.